So I wanted to do a little bit of an update on the blue inverter, and also a little trouble that I've been having with the cheaper inverters. Now, as everybody knows, I've been using these for the last several years. I think that one is the oldest one that I've got up there. These are between 1 and 2 years old each. This I've only had for a couple of months, and whenever we started with it, it would not, it would never release the dump load. See, it's set up to take three-phase input. Whoops. It's set up to take three-phase input, and this is supposed to be a dump load. But it never turned the dump load off, so the turbines were always fully loaded up, no matter how fast they were going, which means that basically whenever they're idle, whenever they're stopped, it's shorted. It just took too much wind to get them going, and even if they did get going, they'd stall out too early. So what I have done here instead is, backing up a couple of steps, I did find out there's two little relays inside that go to the dump load. They're supposed to turn on and off according to when voltage comes on, and it hits certain limits. Those relays are stuck, so they're always on. What I found out inadvertently was that if I hook the leads up to my battery bank, it basically just backflows through it and operates the same as these things, solar inverters. So that's what I have been doing, and you can actually see right here. I've got, because this goes to 230 volt split phase. I've got it going down to one of these single pole or two pole. Man, my throat is dry. I can't talk. It's going down to one of these contactors. I've got the contactor going over here to this switch. So basically, whenever voltage gets up to a certain point, it turns this inverter on. Whenever voltage gets low, just like it did, turns it off. And sometimes, like right now, whenever wind's coming and going and dying really quick both ways, it does come on and off quite frequently. It hasn't seemed to hurt it yet. I don't know if it's going to cause problems, but the thing doesn't work the way it's supposed to anyway, so even if it does cause problems, it's already broken. So now, I believe that I discussed this in my last video. What I have changed here is I was using all of these as primary, and then using that for whenever everything got too high. I've actually turned that around, and this thing now comes on whenever voltage hits 50 volts and doesn't turn back off until it gets down to 50 volts? I can't remember what I set it at. Comes on at 54 volts and then shuts off at 49 volts. Which is basically what I had all of these set at. I have this set up to come on at 54 volts. Now these down here come on at 29 means 58, just under 60 volts. Just under 60 volts, and turns off just under 50 volts. Or 50 volts. It comes on just under 60, turns off at 50. And I know it said, in the 20s, but that's because I have each one of those two here wired up to their own half of the 48 volt bank. So that has actually been working really well for the last 2 weeks. I've had it running like this for 2 weeks, and everything in here running this way, from my batteries to my inverters, all my wires, everything runs cooler, running it all through this inverter first, and then whenever it gets too heavy for this inverter, that's when these come on, which I can hear. We had a real heavy gust. I expected them to come on. Now, something that I'm starting to have problems with these inverters is they have a temperature switch inside them that turns the fans on. The fans run off of DC current off the batteries. And what's happening is that fan switch on all of these is now broken. And it's staying on all the time. I have to come out here and turn the inverters off and then turn them back on to reset the fans. Otherwise, the fans will run 24/7, and they killed all my batteries. I was working out of town for part of last week, and honestly, even before that, I wasn't paying much attention to this. And now all of my batteries are starting to idle down around 22 volts. I already knew that this battery was bad, but now I've got one over here, probably that one, looking at the top. One of those is bad also, and it's dragging down the rest. And it's killing my efficiency. This stuff is already not efficient as it is, and now it's worse. But that's part of the fun of doing it the cheap way. Even though whenever you're playing with turbines, they don't give you a whole lot of options for, not cheap ways. Anyway, that's that. Thought it was interesting, so I thought I'd share. Especially since I haven't had a lot to update lately. It has just not been super windy or exciting. That happens sometimes. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Have a wonderful evening.